Alright, it's time for another episode of Damien Ruins Horror Movies. I'm Damien, and look at that, we're already at episode 3, Tales from the Crypt. And as always, the intro, if you like it, it's the Whiskey Bats. You can check them out on YouTube, and you can also listen to their music on Spotify. As always, this episode is brought to you by Cool Dude Inc. Tonight's episode is called Dig That Cat, He's Really Gone. And at this point in the series, there's still no main theme, and the Crypt Keeper is still not come into his own yet. He's still kind of mellow, which is fine. It's going to be fun to watch him like get crazier and crazier as the seasons go by. And tonight's tale is about a man named Ulrich, as he tells his story from inside the casket he's just been laid into, and he's about to be buried alive. How did he get into this predicament? He was just a guy down on his luck. He's basically a bum. He got found on the side of the street in a pile of trash by this guy claiming to be a doctor with a get-rich-quick scheme. He says, all you gotta do is this little experiment that I think will work. I'll put my life savings on it, and he flashes him this money. When you flash money to a person that has no money, it's pretty easy to manipulate that person. And Ulrich takes us down this trip down memory lane from the casket. And this doctor, Dr. Manfred, takes him to his, I don't know what you call it. It's not really a laboratory. It's not really a hospital room. But he has a cat, and he shows him these scans. And this is where, like, the viewer has to have, like, you know, really stretch his imagination, because he's explaining to the guy. Because, you know, get-rich schemes sound pretty too good to be true. Not something you should really bank on. Sounds like a scam. Sounds like this guy's ripping me off. Well, this sounds like the ultimate scam, because this guy's telling him to believe, because he shows these pictures, these scans of a cat's brain. Cat scans, although that's not really what a cat scan is. In this case, it's a cat scan of a cat's brain, and it shows that the cat died, but mentally, the cat is still alive, because the cat has 9 lives. And that's a stretch of imagination. We all know cats don't really have 9 lives. It's a figure of speech. This episode is asking a lot of us, say, hey, cats have 9 lives, and there's something in their brain that if you extract it and put it into a human, the human will have 9 lives. Sounds legit to me. And Dr. Manfred gets Ulrich to go along with it, with the promise of, if it doesn't work, you're free to go. You know, you're not obligated to anything, but this is a chance for you. If you want to do it, you can do it, and you'll get rich. If you don't want to do it, you know, stay in the gutter. So Ulrich's like, well, let's try it. So I'm imagining Ulrich is pretty down. You got to be pretty down on your luck to believe this kind of horse shit. So the doctor makes the transplant into Ulrich's brain, or his lower, his cerebellum? Cerebral cortex, is that over here? I don't know. But Ulrich wakes up. And allegedly the experiment is a success. Ulrich's like, did it work? Doctor's like, oh, I don't know. We'll have to test it. And Dr. Manfield pulls out a gun and shoots Ulrich in the face. A little while later, Ulrich comes back to life. And this is some kind of like weird Salem's witch trial bullshit experiment where it's like, well, if it didn't work, I'd be dead. It did work, so I'm not dead. That's not really a way out. That's not really like, you didn't really give me a back door there. You kind of like, you kind of played God with my life. There might have been some bad blood if Ulrich had half a brain to start with. And I'm not really sure. I don't really understand, like, okay, you have 9 lives. I'm going to shoot you in the face or in the side of the head. You'll come back to life and somehow that heals. I don't understand how that heals. It's like, you're not Wolverine. You don't have a mutant healing factor. I killed you and then you come back. And if you died in a way where you looked, you weren't maimed or mutilated, then that's a plus. But after a while, it seems like if you kill the same person over and over, like, I'm going to throw you off a cliff. After a while, you start looking pretty mummified and pretty like a zombie. It's like, oh, I'm still alive, but you're just like, your arms falling off and shit. But somehow it all works out with no explanation of how his body regenerates. But once the doctor shows him the money, Ulrich's like, hey, this is a good gig. Let's do it. And he basically joins a circus where he'll perform. It's like a circus environment, but it's almost like a magician show where they lock him up, David Copperfield style, put him in water, but actually drown him, but then he comes back to life an hour later, And that's how he's going to get rich, because you got to have goals. And 10 grand later, the circus has new deaths for him. Starts with drowning, goes to hanging. Somehow he's not coming back like this. Well, he is injured for a little bit, but then he heals like a normal person would heal from scratching your knee on the sidewalk because you fell. But as time goes by, Ulrich starts dating the assistant girl, and he starts to get a little greedy. And he decides, you know what? If I cut out Manfred, that's more money for me and my girl. And he lets Manfred in on this little secret as they're driving down the road. He's like, well, I don't really want to share your cut of the money with you anymore, so I'm just going to kill you. And he speeds up in his car, and he's like, I'm gonna drive us off the cliff, and you're going to die. And Manfred's like, well, you'll die too. He's like, yeah, no, but I'll come back. Which I don't really understand, because when are you going to come back? In an hour? That means they got to find you in an hour, put you at the place of the crime, and then when you escape, they lose the body, they don't know where you are. A lot of holes in this episode. But I like the idea. I think the idea would work better in a comic. But I like that these are actually taken from comics and brought to the big screen. So he's getting a little bit more money, and inevitably his that lovely assistant girl, double crosses him and literally stabs him in the back and takes all of his money. And now he's broke again. So a little bit later, Ulrich goes back to the carnival, and he demands, because he's only got one life left. It would be his 8th life. He can get rid of his 8th life, and then he's got to live his life as a normal person, which is not how I would have done it. I would have done it maybe 5 times, and then I would give myself 4 get out of jail free cards, instead of going back to just being, because once it's well, now that I have 1 life left, now I'm just a normal person. He could have been like a superhero. So he goes back and he demands, he wants 100% of the proceeds for that night. And the guy running is like, I don't know, I don't want to give you 100%. That seems kind of like a lot. And he's like, hey, before I got here, you guys were in the dirt. You guys were nothing. But he's trying to cash out. Because because he just got robbed. He's back at square one. And he's got to do one final hurrah. He needs all that money, or else he just did it all for nothing. Or he could find the girl. And that brings us up to now, because now he's in the casket feeling like this great mastermind where it's like, problem. Girl took all my money and now she's gone. Solution. I basically blackmail the guy who runs the circus. I get my big payday. I live happily ever after. But as he's sitting in the casket, he starts thinking. He starts thinking more about that cat that gave up his life so that he could have 9 lives, and he realizes, wait a minute, that cat died. That cat was dead when he did the surgery. That means I started out with 8 lives, not 9. And he realizes his last life is in the casket with him. This is it. If he dies in this casket, he's dead. But it's too late to do anything about it, because nobody can hear him. He's underground. And he screams. But no one can hear him. No one can save him. And once again, plot twist? Or did karma catch up to our character, who in a lot of these Tales from the Crypt episodes, they get greedy, or they're just kind of bad, and karma catches up to you. And karma caught up to Ulrich that day, and I can't really feel sorry for him. He's a murderer. Junkie. justice was served. And that concludes that episode. And I'm sorry, I don't really have, because I'm not going to do survival tips with these, because they're too short. They're like between 20 and 30 minutes an episode. And I'm going to do a badass work, because normally everybody kind of sucks in these. Like, everybody's bad. So it's just degrees. And then the guy who gets karma or plot twisted, or girl, they end up kind of getting what they deserve, even though they're not necessarily the most deserving. So it's kind of, there's not a lot of heroes in these. These stories are about, they're more like the biggest loser. And I don't mean that in like a losing weight way. I mean it in a way of like, everybody in here sucks, but who's going to get fucked the hardest? And in this case, it was Ulrich. But he did his share of fucking first. So I don't have a good conclusion for these, but they're short enough where I can, I don't know, you'll get lots of them. So I don't have a good ending. Go watch Tales from the Crypt. Get ahead of me. That way when I put these out, they'll be fresh in your mind. So far, all I know of is you can watch them on YouTube. I'll try to keep putting links at the bottom, because on YouTube they do have, there's a lot of like, they're basically like channels. Like there's one that's got season 1 through 7. I'll try and keep putting that on there. So far, the quality on them sucks. I'm waiting for the DVD in the mail still. But I don't know. 3 more episodes of season 1, and then I have the DVDs for the rest. So I'll have more information as far as like the directors and the actors and all that. But so far, I don't know. Let's try and have fun with this. Hope you guys are enjoying it. I am going to continue to do movies here and there too. This is just kind of something so I can stay in your lives. I will see you guys next time. See ya.